We're at Fort George, Niagara Falls. We're going to do the tour, the Fort George tour, the so-called haunted area. The tour starts right there. That's where the tour starts, so guys, come on along and let's go with the flow.
It usually runs about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we detail a little bit of the history of the area and also of the fort, and then we get into the ghost list.
Now you heard it. That's the host. She's going to be taking us to the tour back, and sure, and basically tune in. We'll see a lot of stuff for tonight.
This is the first time we've had an e-magazine though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
E-magazine? Oh, that's cool.
First time, so you guys get to be the first. Making our way towards the fort.
Start the tour. Come along. This should be interesting.
Oh my god, okay.
Oh, great. Oh, wee.
Now, the town today has its fair share of ghosts. Supposedly, for every 100 active living people you have out in town that are permanent residents, you can find yourself one active dead one. And I guess 100 to 1 odds are pretty good if you're down the street at the casino in Niagara Falls. I don't know what it means for ghost hunting tonight. But probably our most famous ghost here in Niagara-on-the-Lake is a fellow by the name of Captain Swayze.
Captain Swayze, huh? The most famous ghost in Niagara. Maybe we're going to have a glimpse of him later on. So, here we go.
Leaving more of the boys out and bleeding on the ground than they're taking home to fight another day. Keeping in mind that soldiers back then were pretty much buried where they fell, well, let's just say that the next time you're walking through the prettiest town in Canada, keep in mind that as far as we know, they haven't found all of the graves out there yet. And I would think that perhaps that the living are about what happened in the area 200 years ago. So we do ask that you take extra care as you head through tonight, and just watch your step as we head through.
Ghosts. Are you following us home? What's the deal? People that doesn't have the benefit of having a haunted house. It's not all of them. I don't want that.
Here that's really oldie-timey in any way. Yet there's often experiences with this building that relate to the history of it being used as a military barracks. You'll notice that there's a window behind me here. And inside the building there's a little emergency light that stays on all the time.
Wow, that's an interesting part. Well, let's move on. Come on to the next.
Thanks, Ed. Stay like this. As long as there's no dogs here. Woof, woof. I didn't know there was going to be water in here.
And there is this gentleman standing on the landing, glaring back down at them, and he definitely was not one of the people on the tour. Well, the woman absolutely freaked out. And I'm the person next to you.
Jesus!
Well, you can see the reaction with, 40 or so people here. Imagine if there is only one other person with you and you're in the almost total darkness.
We're nearing the end of the tour here. Stay tuned for questions and answers.
Most people assume that once they're outside the gates of Fort George that they're safe from whatever spirits may be around, but unfortunately that's not always the case. back when Ghost Tours started in '94, the tours began and ended a block over on Byron Street, which is right beside the Queen's Landing Hotel. And if you were unlucky enough to park out here, it meant that you had an incredibly long, dark walk back to your car by yourself, while the rest of the group and the guide and the lantern went off that way, because at that time there were no safety lights in the trees, and really no way to see your way through this forested area.
Well, Megan, thanks again for the tour.
Oh, you're welcome.
Much appreciated. It was very informative and it was fun.
Great.
Basically, you're going to mention about your personal experiences
Yes.
with this Ghost Tour.
And
You mind telling us about it?
we've had all kinds of things. All of the staff have had things happen to them inside the fort. One of the weirdest things I've ever had happen to me actually happened out here after the tour was over. Myself and the security person from the first tour group had actually stopped out here. We talked to the people that had been on our tour and they'd headed off. And just as we were finishing up, the second tour came out of the fort. And we have a rule on the Ghost Tour that if you're wearing a cape, you don't come looming out of the darkness of the other group because it kind of scares them usually. So we tried to make ourselves a little bit less visible, and we actually went off down the path and hid behind one of the stone cairns that sits beside the path. The other group was out in the field over here telling a story. And as we were standing behind the cairn, maybe about 15 meters away from us, we saw a dark figure sitting on the stairs of the visitor center. And we actually assumed that it was the other security person that had been out working that night. And we kind of waved to him, and the figure was sitting down, but sort of looked like he was doing one of those things, looking to see who it was that was waving at him.
What about your most recent?
Most recent?
Like how long ago was that and what happened?
Well, just tonight. Like you said, I pick up things quite often. The back bastion, which is the corner of the fort, figure in the embrasure, which is the little cutout where the cannons went through. Another figure at the front, standing there. I've had on my tour tonight, knocking in the tunnel, figures seen in the tunnel. Figures were seen at near the last building when you come out Blockhouse 1, where the Watcher is. So people seen some figures in the window there.
All right. Okay, guys, thank you.
It was nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, no.
There you have it, folks. The Ghost Tour here at Fort George, Niagara Falls. Once again, we'd like to extend our thank yous to Fort George and thank our hosts, our tour guides, for conducting the interview and answering our questions. My name is Alex Leano, your host. Thank you for tuning in here at Rice Bits. Oh my gosh!